I think about the first game after Kobe passed away, and LeBron came out and addressed the fans. And it was kind of like, how are we going to play basketball with this tragedy? And he addressed the fans and he said, this is what we do. We come together and we play basketball. The Lakers are bigger than any one owner or any one player or any one championship. It's about how it continues on and how it brings us together as a community.
How do you know when it's time to say goodbye? My guest today, Lakers owner Jeanie Buss, is still working through it. That's because she recently made the decision to sell a majority stake of the Lakers at a valuation of $10 billion. Jeannie's dad, Dr. Jerry Buss, bought the Lakers in 1979 and immediately turned the team into the Showtime Lakers. They won 10 NBA championships before he passed away in 2013, leaving the team for Jeanie to run. Now, that's a tough act to follow, but under her leadership, the Lakers have won a championship and landed big-name players like LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and now Luka Dončić. When Jeanie and I sat down, I was excited to discuss the sale, but also legacy, her dad's legacy, her own legacy, and what she wants to do next. And of course, we also had to discuss someone near and dear to us both, Kobe Bryant. I'm Maria Sharapova, and this is Pretty Tough. Support for the show comes from Peloton. When you feel stagnant, the solution is clear. Move. It really does help to make movement a priority, and to do it consistently. When you move, you tap into a certain kind of joy and confidence that you can't find elsewhere. You can unlock a love for movement with the Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. Peloton IQ provides personalized strength coaching that helps you unlock a new version of you. Let yourself run, lift, fail, try, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com. Jeanie, thank you so much for being here today. 2025 was such a pivotal year for you personally and professionally, and we'll get to all of that, but I thought I'd start this conversation with a quote that I read from you. Sometimes being underestimated actually gives you an advantage because you're discounted, and people let down their guard. I can relate a lot to that, but I'd love for you to explain that a little further.
Yeah, for me, it was allowing me to like stay in the room, meaning people would often overlook me. And so that meant I was always in the middle of things, and people let down their guard and might say things that I could use and learn from. And so I always welcomed people who just ignored me, right? And used that to my advantage.
Was there a specific instance where you remember that you really used it to your advantage?
Yeah, oftentimes there would be conversations that to owners of teams would be having, and I'd be sitting right there, and they acted as if I was just not existing, and might have let down their guard and said some things that I would keep up here, so I would remember and use it to my advantage.
And has that shifted over time? Have you noticed the difference?
Yeah, I think after winning a championship and accomplishing a lot of things, I think now people take me a little bit more seriously.
There's an element of respect in the room.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I relate to that a little bit of being, always being forced into one lane and not being accepted for other things, and whether it's just being an athlete, but also feeling like perhaps there is something else that I could try and get at, but wanting to be respected for it. And those are the times when I felt like I would work extra hard because people didn't see my potential. And then I'd show them the other way around and tell them, well, you see, you didn't put all that, in me, and now it's fueled a little fire.
Well, you're so disarming because you're so talented as a tennis player and athlete that nobody would think that you have all this other capability as well. So, I could see where that would have happened to you a lot because you're so super successful just as an athlete, which is, that's a lot. But everything else that you've done.
Yeah, I remember my dad, one of the first few really important meetings, negotiating a contract with Nike. My dad said, go into the room. And I was still a teenager. And I felt like, from the executives there, like, why is this young girl in the room? And my father, and I felt it. And my dad would say, it's because her future and her worth is on the line. So she needs to pay attention. She needs to be here, even though I was young. Let's go back to the very beginning. You're 19 years old. You're at USC. You get a call from your dad, and he says, will you be the GM of a tennis team?
Yes.
What was your reaction? Did you feel like, no, Dad, bring me in the big leagues of the Lakers?
No, and it's funny because when you talk about your dad, you had a dad that empowered you and encouraged you. And so my dad was the same way. Maybe I wasn't ready for it necessarily, but he knew if he pushed me that, he would find out if I was capable. And the idea of putting me in charge of a tennis team in the World Team Tennis League, the Billie Jean King League, he would see how adaptable I was. But my first response to him, because I was a student at USC, was, oh, good, I'm going to quit school because now I have a job. And he said, no, you have to finish
take
school.
care of both
and
things.
If you drop out of school, you can't have the job. So I had to do both. And, that presented a challenge, but I was so excited. And that was, the early 80s. And my very first act as general manager of the Los Angeles Strings, which was the name of the team, was to draft Martina Navratilova.
Wow.
So that was a pretty good position to be in.
I also heard you had to make a call to Jimmy Connors and John McEnroe and get them to play at the Forum.
What happened was my dad in 1979 bought not only the Lakers, but the Kings hockey team, as well as the Forum where they played. And when you have an NBA team and an NHL team in an arena, that takes up about 100 nights, but there's 250 empty nights.
Right.
And so my dad wanted me to develop content to put into the arena. And tennis really was it was, the hottest thing. And he wanted to create kind of how, because the most annoying thing about tennis fans is when they would call up a month before the tournament and say, who's in the finals? And it's like, well, you got to see who's
that isn't
wins.
a tennis fan.
Right. That's true. But okay, a sports fan, they want to see
they want to
know.
They want to know who's playing, what time, where, what time can they show up. And
exactly.
There's so many unknowns in tennis. And I assume that
so
made it challenging.
So my dad said, I want to see John McEnroe play Jimmy Connors. Well,
how did that phone call go? Because if you can make that phone call when you're 19 years old, I'm sure that prepares you for the many characters that you've faced in your lifetime.
That took a year and a half to convince both guys to play because it was an exhibition. So they were paid an appearance fee and they didn't like playing each other.
Right.
So, it was tough enough to have to face each other, in the semifinals at the U.S. Open, but to purposely choose to have to face your sworn enemy. But we were able to pull it off. And, to this day, Jimmy Connors thinks he's my favorite player. John McEnroe thinks he's my all-time favorite player. I had to keep it that way. And but it was what we did was we had the match. It was 1984-85. Sold out the Forum, broke the gross gate record for ticket sales that was broken. About 6 months later when Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers played at the Forum on New Year's Eve. but for a while it was the biggest thing. And, so we consistently brought in tennis
Talent.
events. I never had a
No, we
chance
never
to
got a
have
chance
you
to.
play, but
But I did play when it was the Staples Center. I did play the year-end championships in LA and won that event. And I remember that was like my first experience and a real experience in California. And I thought perhaps one day I could live here.
yeah, and
Yeah.
the LA fans
Yes.
loved you. They love their stars.
I'd love to hear what were some of the qualities that your father saw in you as a 19-year-old, and how do you think that's changed as you both worked together over the many years?
He saw that I was resilient, that when I failed, I tried again. And he loved throwing me in the deep end. There was at one point in the early 80s where he sent me to Russia to negotiate with the cultural ministry because he wanted the Moscow Circus to come to Los Angeles and perform at the Forum.
I did not know. That's such a fun fact.
But I'm in my early 20s. I mean, I had
Did you go?
lawyers. Oh, yeah. And I mean, it was, before perestroika and it was like culture shock. But I was fearless because I didn't know what to be afraid of, to be honest with you. But my dad kept challenging me to, let's see if she'll do this, if she's willing to put herself out there. And so he saw something in me that he continued to feed.
Prior to this interview, I was thinking of like how to approach, the Lakers as a whole, and just wrapping my head around the responsibility that you have as a female leader in this space. When I think of some of the biggest sport leagues, teams, companies, there's only a handful, and the Lakers must be at the top 5 of that list in terms of value, brand identity, not just in the United States, but internationally. What is that responsibility like for you as a female owner?
It's a community, and I know what our fans, what this team means to our fans, and you have to honor that. And my dad bought the team in 1979, but they had a following way before he bought the team, and they're going to continue to have a following well into the 50, 100-year future. So it's about honoring that community, treating the players like family. I think that we really haven't done a good job as a league to, we have state-of-the-art care to develop our players, to have them play at their peak performance, but there's a big drop-off about when they retire, and that transition from being a player and, loved and being taken care of to what happens afterwards. And I feel like that the Lakers are a, umbrella, a purple and gold umbrella that, family can stand behind and pull together.
Right. If you were to compare the Lakers to a luxury brand, because when I look at you and I zoom out,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the Dior's of the world. How do you think of the Lakers?
I think of the Lakers as like prime real estate, like beachfront property, and there's the brand, and then there's the personalities that have driven the brand, like a Magic Johnson, like a Kobe Bryant, like a LeBron James. And now we have a future, Hall of Famer in Luka Dončić who's playing for us. So it's the
I know. We'll get to that. There's a lot to dig in there.
and it's the greatness of the brand and everything that's come before it, like Wilt Chamberlain and George Mikan, and that makes it easier for a person in my position because they don't, players don't play for the owner or the governor or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
They play to be up on the same board as Magic and Kobe,
Yes.
and to it elevates the greatness. So as a brand, it just perpetuates.
I'd love to talk about how technology, how marketing have influenced the team. And I go back to Dr. Jeanie Buss bringing in dancers in the timeouts. And he was the first to really bring entertainment to sport.
Mm-hmm.
Now that just seems like so natural and expected. But as someone that led that, you now have to push that forward. Like, what is the next thing, and where do you get inspiration from?
Dr. Buss saw was the marriage of sports and entertainment, and that, it's really putting on a show. And it's all about the product on the court and making sure that the players have that platform to shine and to be the best that they can be. So, that's what we continue to do. I think that, as technology evolves, it's really important that we understand our consumer, how they want to consume our games, whether it's now on their phone, if it's about highlights, if they want to stream, the games, or we have to listen to our customer and go where they are. And certainly the NBA fans skew younger than most professional leagues. So we are a league that has to always acknowledge what's the next thing that will keep our fans engaged. And certainly, you could talk about the pros and cons about sports gambling, but we look at sports gambling as another way for fans to engage with our product. Certainly, it brings an element that you have to keep the integrity of the game, and I think it probably puts a lot of pressure on our referees and officials because
that's changed a lot in tennis. And
exactly.
I imagine that's changing a lot in the NBA.
Exactly. But you see that if you have a favorite team, putting money on your favorite team just deepens your connection.
Right. Yeah, and with the evolvement of AI and seeing how artificial intelligence has impacted so many different sports in positive ways, one of the reasons why a fan comes and watches a live sport is for the human element, for the physicality, for the momentum shifts, for the drama. But yet, I'm sure you want to incorporate a lot of the new technology in how you see the team evolve.
Yeah, I mean, anything that will help create defenses to understand other teams' tendencies. Artificial intelligence really hasn't been fully exploited yet in sports, and I expect our basketball operations to continue to bring.
Are the coaches using a lot of that now?
Yeah, I mean they do a lot of data analysis, right? So it's like having artificial intelligence to be able just to understand the data or process the data faster, all of those things. So we have a really a young coach in JJ Redick, who is...
I love his energy, by the way.
Yeah, he is... It's like he's so into the details and to getting it right. Like he's a winner, and he is the type to embrace whatever new opportunities come along.
Yeah, I remember my coach spending hours putting together video analysis where now that could be done in just a couple of minutes and saves him time on focusing on bigger and better things. You often speak about sharing a lot of the games with the fans, sitting next to them, understanding how they became a fan. I feel like that is It's so important, right? You're not just sitting there in a suite analyzing what's going on. You are directly with the source of Lakers Nation. Did you start doing that from the very beginning?
I did. It's like, and my dad was the same way. And I mean, to this day, I meet people who will tell me, how my dad touched their life, just at a restaurant, So I really enjoy getting to know the fans because everybody has a story and the way they share it with me. And I especially love on social media when people send me pictures of their newborn babies with Laker,
Sweet.
outfit. I mean, it's like that's the most important thing in their life is their child, and they're like, I'm going to make them a Laker fan.
Right.
And I'm like, that's what we do, one at a time. We make
Right.
Laker fans, and it warms my heart. It touches me in a way that I will never tire of. I don't take it lightly. Not only the money commitment, but also the time commitment and taking space up from their heart, to love this team.
Yeah. And, knowing there's a lot of money and power behind the sport, there's also human beings, right? There are team members, there are the athletes, and I've seen your role grow into managing and almost being a mother to these, team members, to these athletes on a daily basis, and respecting them from a human being level and not someone that's in the public eye on a daily basis. Why is that so important to you?
Because I've been on the other side of it. And one of the most important periods of my life for 15 years, I was, in a relationship with Coach Phil Jackson. And he really showed me the other side of an athlete in terms of, what he's trying to create when he's coaching a team and creating that family that will sacrifice for each other. And I remember I got really in a big fight with him. It was right before Thanksgiving, and he was making the team practice on Thanksgiving Day. And I said, why are you making them practice? The season's so hard on them. Give them a day off. I just went off on him, and he's like, Jeanie, calm down. He said, on Thanksgiving, you are to be with your family, and they'll have plenty of time to be with their family. But I'm also developing a family here. So we need our time together, and they will have fun. And it really showed me that they're more than one dimension. It isn't just about what happens on the court. The lives that they live and acknowledging who they are off the court was very important to Phil. And, I've learned that lesson. I will continue that on. Doesn't make it any easier having to trade a player or cut a player, waive a player. But that bridge will always be there. Now, I understand hurt feelings when Shaquille O'Neal was traded from the Lakers. He got his digs in, and, it took a few years, but he wanted to go into the Hall of Fame as a Laker. We retired his jersey, and he asked me to be on the board of his foundation, which I am. Our relationship is good now as it ever was, but you have to give players their space. Getting traded is really difficult.
Yeah. I remember all about those practices on holidays because I used to be engaged to a Laker for many years, as you know, Jeanie.
Yes.
And I remember Phil saying, no, we have practice on Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving in December was my off season. So that's when I really had time at home. And I was like, is this practice really necessary? I'm sure he could do without it. But he he had a foundation and he truly leaned into it and he was a master. I remember all the books that he used to share with the players that they had to read on road trips.
Yes.
And I used to get myself a copy because I was like, if it works for the Lakers and it works for Phil Jackson, it is going to work for me. Last year marked a new era for the Lakers. You had an extraordinary trade. It was all over the news. Luka Doncic coming to the Los Angeles Lakers. Can you walk me through those 24 hours?
In order to get a player of great value, you have to give up a player of great value. And the Dallas team wanted Anthony Davis, and he was on our team. And so conversations started, but it was important that they remain private and didn't leak out to the media, because if a player is made aware of a pending trade, it could crater your entire season. So we're talking that those conversations started the beginning of January, right? I'll never forget. That's when all of Los Angeles was on fire. And
were you part of those conversations?
Yes. I mean, in order to trade somebody like Anthony Davis, it would have to be with approval. Not only that, but a first-round draft pick. And certainly getting a player of Luka's caliber and his, being at the beginning end of his career, was just an extraordinary opportunity, but it required a lot of strategy and a lot of small steps in order to pull it off. And Rob Pelinka, our general manager, was able to do that, all without leaking to the media, because I think Mark Cuban might have jumped in front of a train to keep it from happening. But
well, he did a phenomenal job because nobody knew.
Nobody knew, and including Luka, and
Anthony Davis,
and
LeBron James,
and we had a game in New York that night, and so the coach knew that this was going to happen, but he still had to play the game, and we won the game that night. It wasn't a distraction. And then all the world, turned upside down.
How does that work? Are you on that on the final 24th hour? Are you handed a piece of paper and you have to put your stamp on it?
Yes, it's the NBA. They do what's called the trade call to make sure that every bit of the trade is agreed to, and that it's
happening.
It's stamped.
It's there.
Yeah.
I mean, I read your dad often told you that you have to be extremely patient, but once in a while you have to go from 0 to 100. Was that one of those moments?
It was absolutely one of those moments. And where my dad was trying to teach that to me was being a poker player, because he would say, Jeanie, people think poker is about the cards, but it's really not. It's about being patient. But once you have the right cards, you have to know when to go from 0 to 100. And he said, I know you have the patience, but I'm not sure you have the ability to put your foot on the gas. And I like to think that I proved that to him many times now.
Wow. That is so powerful. What a moment. Yeah, it's so funny. As I told you, as you came into the room, I spent so many years in LA, and I felt like I was part of the Lakers nation. But since the trade, I'm so invested in the dynamic of the business, of the players, of seeing LeBron in his 23rd year, and yet seeing a young player come into the team to which you described was the saddest player you've ever seen join the Lakers nation, in Luka Dončić. Explain that feeling, knowing how much you've put into this team, knowing how hopefully amazing it will turn out to be, but yet there's this human element. This player did not expect to be traded. He's young. He has a family. He has a life. He set up a career where he thought he's going to be there until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
And within minutes, his life shifts.
Yeah.
And you are the leader holding everything accountable. And yet you have to mitigate the personal aspect of the feelings.
You're going to make me cry hearing you say that. It's very well said. In my experience, welcoming a player to the Laker organization, I often hear, this is my dream. I've always wanted to be a Laker, to play in the same place where Magic did, and Kobe and Shaq and Kareem. But Luka didn't come into the Lakers like that. He was still, I could see he was trying to figure out, why is this happening? Because as soon as a trade happens, the first thing, we had a private jet to bring him to LA to, assimilate him and bring him into the organization. And, you could see that he left his heart in Dallas. And it was gonna take him time to process. And the beauty, and I'd never met Luka. I mean, he was someone special to me, because the last night that I saw Kobe alive was about a month before he passed. He brought his daughter Gigi to come see Luka play, because Luka was Gigi's favorite player. So I always had a soft spot in my heart for Luka because of that, and never in a million years thought he would become available, that he could become a Laker. And the beauty of Luka and getting to know him was that he is a real person, and he feels his emotions, and he doesn't try to hide them. And so in real time, February, March, until he had to go back to Dallas in April to play that, where he cried on the bench. He brought all Laker fans together, because we were feeling what he was feeling, as he was sharing his emotions with us. And that endears him to our fans, and they want to see him succeed. So, he's just been terrific to work with. And I think he's come back with a purpose of wanting to win a championship for this team.
He's also living by the beach.
Yes.
He's got a
beautiful house,
$6 million Bugatti, apparently.
Yes.
I think he's gotten over. I think we can safely say he's gotten over it.
Yeah, I mean,
with your help,
I think it's okay to feel. It's kind of like, if your boyfriend breaks up with you, it's okay to, go out and get a new dress and try to make him regret that he ever did that. So if that's the case, then,
we'll take it.
We'll take it. Keep feeding that.
So another major thing that happened in 2025, it was the decision to sell a majority of the Lakers, 85% of the Lakers, for $10 billion. Why now?
My dad did really a wonderful thing by putting the Laker team in a trust. A lot of times when an asset the size of, the value, something like the Lakers, is passed to a generation, normally you have to sell that asset to pay
a very heavy tax.
There's a lot of taxes. But what he did was he transferred ownership over time to a trust that he set up for his children. And he wanted us to keep the team for as long as we could. But when you have 6, children, all different ages and in different places in their lives, it comes time for them to do their estate planning. And it was actually held in what's called the last man standing trust, which are illegal in most countries because they cause murder. It was very complicated, and it's hard to explain it all. But the time was right. The buyer was the right one. Our fans know after watching the success that the LA Dodgers have had that Mark Walter will continue to want to win, and I'm staying on to help the transition. And he honors the Buss family legacy. That's important to him, and I don't think anybody will ever do it the way my dad did it. And, he kind of set a bar that probably will never be exceeded. He was a once-in-a-lifetime owner, the all-time winningest owner in professional sports. And, this was the right time.
And you feel good about it several months later?
I mean, it will always be bittersweet. But, I would like to stay for the next 100 years, but I'm not going to be around for the next 100 years. So things always have to evolve. My dad asked me to, I like to say my dad had 6 children, but the Lakers were his baby, and he wanted me to make sure that the baby thrived. And, the investment that Mark Walter will make in keeping the Lakers at the top of the NBA. That's what the Lakers deserve and the Laker fans deserve.
Was there a non-negotiable for you while you were doing this deal?
Not really. I mean, Mark had owned a minority share of the team for several years, and I've known him, well over 10 years, and knowing how he
So there was a comfort level
Yes.
in handing it off to someone that you felt great trust in.
Yes.
And after so many years of building a legacy.
Yeah. And again, my siblings all wanting different things made it very difficult to run the operation the way it needed to be and to compete.
I'd love to touch on that a little bit more because I had a family dynamic with my father, who was my coach from the age of 4, from when I started playing tennis to I was 21 years old, and I felt that there was this responsibility of wanting to make decisions on my own. I was growing out of the role of just being, my father's daughter and him being my coach. But there was complexity in that finances were shared. Like, we had the same piggy bank. I would just love to hear the advantages and disadvantages, and you've navigated, as you said, alongside your siblings, the many varying roles that they all had, overseen by your father. What were some of the advantages of doing it as a family, and also what were the tough, sticky parts that could be lessons for our audience?
Yeah, what was made very clear by my father was he wanted me to run the business operation, and he put my brother Jimmy in charge of the basketball operation. But he also gave me, what he referred to as the hammer, that if any changes needed to be made, then I was in a position where I could make them. And so there was a point where my brother had made the decision that in order to compete, he needed many draft picks. And as we know, to get a lot of draft picks, you have to be at the bottom of the standings. So while my dad was alive and running the Lakers, in 36 years, they only missed the playoffs twice. And when my brother was running the team, we didn't make the playoffs for 6 years in a row. that's not the brand that Laker fans were used to.
So you stepped in and cracked the whip.
Yeah, I had to. We had just launched Spectrum Sportsnet that carried the Lakers, and they needed the
You
playoffs.
were thinking of it as a business.
Right.
You're not just thinking of it as a team, and we need to win, right? Because winning brings so much more than just a Lakers banner.
Right. And it became an unrecognizable product, and you can't do that to your fans, to your partners. And so I had to make the tough choice of making that change. And so it was difficult, and but we've gotten past that, so we're still close.
And a lot of times, good things come out of having difficult conversations. When you are faced with, opposition, different opinions, is really when you huddle and you make decisions that are best for an organization as opposed to just for yourself. Did you feel that going into some of these tough meetings with your siblings?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when it came to the sale, I was one of 6 votes. And so, it was important. I could have been outvoted, and to not sell. Everybody had to make the decision that was right for them and their family. And so, I try to lead by collaboration, and but at the end of the day, it's a democracy.
Yeah, you have to do what's right.
Right.
You say painful. Which part? What is the piece that is the most painful?
It's just it's triggering because of all the people that we've lost. And that's, I think about the first game after Kobe passed away, and LeBron came out and addressed the fans. And it was kind of like, how are we going to play basketball with this tragedy? And he addressed the fans and he said, this is what we do. We come together and we play basketball. And so it's like the Lakers are bigger than any one owner or any one player or any one championship. It's about how it continues on and how it brings us together as a community.
And boy, did it continue. 2020.
Right. Yeah.
You are a champion once more. And LeBron leads you to that.
That's right. And we'll continue to try to get there again.
Support for the show comes from Peloton. Despite what we tell ourselves, taking care of yourself does not need to be complicated. It really is as simple as finding a time to add movement into your day. And once movement becomes routine, it will feel like even less of a hurdle because consistency is key. You'll find yourself breaking personal records. You might even wonder why it ever felt so hard in the first place. And over time, you'll start to carry yourself with a mental fortitude and a genuine love for movement that can't be replicated. You can make movement a priority with the Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. Peloton IQ provides personalized strength coaching that helps you unlock a new version of you. It counts every rep, reads every moment, and coaches you through it in real time. So the only thing on your mind will be how good it feels to let go and move. Ultimately, you can unlock that priceless feeling, real accomplishment, and real joy. Let yourself run, lift, fail, try, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
So much of your life has played out in the public stage, and you were not from the very top, but you were known as a business leader. But I think you also thought of yourself as a woman, as someone elegant. You even posed for Playboy. Like you had many interests, you had many passions, but perhaps you weren't respected for all of them.
I could only be true to who I am. As you go along life, you realize that trying to please people, there's just some people that
You can't.
You can't. It's impossible. And really, at the end of the day, you don't want to have, regrets.
No.
And I wouldn't want to blame somebody else for me not at least trying to accomplish what I would want to with my life. And
it's very well said. Yeah, I mean, and a big part of the reason I wanted to start the space is to allow women to have permission to be more than just one thing in their life.
Right.
Like, they can be in a business suit, and they can also be elegant, and they can be vulnerable, and they can be soft, but they can also take a stand and make a life-impacting decision in the same day. And I feel like we're not allowed to talk about that. We're either allowed to be one or the other.
Yeah. And I call upon women to like, let's not judge each other or say, oh, that I could never do that, or why I don't understand why she wants that. It's like, we should embrace what, for me in my career, I'm not a good multitasker, and I wouldn't have been good at leaving, my child at home. Like, I couldn't focus on a career. I like would choose one or the other. And that's what was right for me. But I know there are women who could, hold two babies in a hand and making conference calls, and like they can do it. And that's what they thrive on. And I love seeing like women do what's right for them. And, one of my passion projects that I'm involved with is I have the only all-female professional wrestling, which doesn't sound like a logical thing for some people, but I grew up collecting comic books, and I love superheroes. I love Supergirl and Wonder Woman and all of that. And I decided to fund Women of Wrestling because there's so many female athletes because of Title IX and because of Billie Jean King, who's a friend and a mentor to me. And, now there's so many women that play college athletics, but unless they're a tennis player, a golfer, there's really not a lot of places after college their eligibility runs out to perform as a professional athlete. And so we train the women to become wrestlers, because if you're an athlete, if you played field hockey at a collegiate level, you're an athlete. We can train you. That means your
mindset is half the battle.
Right. And so what I love about wrestling, it's wrestling, it's campy, it's fun. But what I love is that it's women, whether they're right or wrong, they're standing up to fight for what they believe in. And it's like that passion of, don't be intimidated. As a young woman, don't be intimidated. Don't get, pigeonholed that you can only do one thing or the other. You have to choose. You don't have to choose, but you've got to stand up for what you want and be willing to fight for it.
So while you're running this incredible organization, as a side hustle, you're like, I'm going to start a wrestling league?
Yeah. It's been a joy for me. And, it's like, we have, in wrestling, you have the baby faces or the heels, the heels are the villains. And so many women want to be the bad guy. They like being the bad
guy. Yeah.
Right. It's a lot of fun.
So as you gear up for this new role, and I know you're continuing to be the governor of the Lakers for the next 5 years, and of course, hopefully beyond that, what is next for Jeanie Buss?
Just I'm open-minded and open-hearted. So there's going to be opportunities I can't imagine. We have season 2 of our show on Netflix called Running Point.
You're an executive producer.
And an EP on it.
Incredible.
And Kate Hudson is absolutely fantastic in a role inspired by somebody like me, but is not me. And
like, I'm going to make that clear.
It's very clear. And
you're like very loosely based.
Very loosely based. But I've known Kate since she was 16. And to watch her, she is so talented and she does a great job. So, there's a lot of things to look forward to. And like I said, there's always a new opportunity.
So if someone from LVMH offers you a role on the board.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? First of all, they would say they'd have to get a stylist for me or something because I'm not.
That's so easy to do.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm open-hearted and open-minded, and that's how everybody should approach every part of their life.
Particularly the next chapters of one's life.
Right.
Looking back into Kobe's career and seeing the incredible transition that he had and the foundation that he built during his career on and off the court that eventually helped him so much when he made the decision to retire, in which he confided in you and you held that secret together for a long time. Are there lessons that you could draw from him into this incredible new chapter of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I will never not have Kobe on my mind. He was one of the greatest Lakers ever, but also a friend and somebody that I leaned on when things were tough for me. And, I'll never forget, as I talked about Phil Jackson and our relationship that lasted 15 years, we grew apart because Phil took a job in New York to work for the Knicks, and the distance was difficult. Phil said, Jeanie, I can't help you with the Lakers anymore. I'm now going to be with the Knicks. And he said, but you always have Kobe. Kobe will have your back. And, I never thought I'd see a day that he wouldn't be here. And I will keep him close, and use his inspiration to inspire others. And I was even talking to him. He was, telling me how much he enjoyed coaching women, his daughter's team.
Right.
And that, I'm like, he really, really moved forward women's sports for just being who he was and his passion for it. And, I miss him every day.
What a soul. Yeah, not many people know this, but toward the end of my career, I got in touch with Kobe because I knew that the end of my professional tennis career was near and I was going to have to make the tough decision of retiring. And I thought he did such an exceptional job of building the foundation of his future while he was playing basketball, that I got his cell phone and I communicated with him and we set up a meeting, and it happened to be a few days after his passing.
Oh.
And I had already made the decision to retire, but I wanted to ask him so many questions about the future and how he did it. And that moment, I know it impacted the LA community, the world so much, but I look back at him and I think of him as an example every time I see basketball. Like, I just see him and his preparation and his focus and being the last. When I'm in the gym right now, not that I have to be in shape for anything, but when I'm at rep 8 and I have to do 10, I think of him.
Right.
And when I'm thinking of a deal that I'm going to take, or, there's a lot of money on the line, but perhaps it takes me away from my family, I think of him. So the impact that he left was tremendous. And, we have two different walks of life, and this incredible individual impacted us differently. I'm not surprised that he wanted to talk to you more about it, because that's who Kobe was. He was so generous. And I can't tell you how many times people
have told me, and especially athletes in all different sports, all different countries. He spoke Spanish, he spoke, Italian, right?
Yeah.
Like he could communicate
Pizza.
right. He was amazing. And so he, that it doesn't surprise me that, that he would mentor you. And I love hearing that story.
Yeah, it was very special just to have those few weeks of feedback from him. But what a tough moment. I know you had a little image, a picture of yourself behind your desk as a little girl, and like to kind of wrap this up, thinking of your ambitions from a teenager to how far you've come. I mean, what are you most proud of as you think of the legacy that you've created?
Oh, wow. I think my legacy is protecting my dad's legacy. And, I feel like I was, like his right-hand man, for lack of a better term, that, it was, he had this ability of, bringing people together. And, I want people to experience and know who he was. And I feel like I still report to him, even though he's been gone almost 15 years.
Special.
Yeah. So
extraordinary. Well, I only have a lightning round left.
Okay.
If you're good with that. It's just a few questions.
Try.
Okay.
I'll try.
What is something that you've had to unlearn?
I tend to blush and get really shy, introverted when I'm under pressure. So I've had to spend a lot of time, asserting myself more. And what I did was I took stand-up comedy classes to try to be.
That is a very brave role.
It was scary as hell, but it's like I figured if I can't do stand-up comedy, but if I could learn how to be funnier, and humor kind of deflects that attention. And so it did help me out a lot.
Well, it's kind of like what your dad just gave you that chance, and he's like, you either take it or you don't.
Right.
What is a routine that's helped shape your success?
Taking time in the morning to kind of organize my day and visualize what it's going to be like. And
no, I love visualization.
Yes, exactly.
Even visualizing things that might not go well, like, because I think we tend to be surprised when failure comes along or we make a mistake. But sometimes when you visualize making those errors and like visualizing getting through those mistakes often helps you feel better about it when you're in the moment.
Did you ever do that with a match?
A lot.
Really?
Before every match, I would visualize my strokes and like the technical like game plans that I had with my coach. And I'd often visualize like even hitting in the net so that I could feel like my body react to like a negative impact so that when it happened in the morning, I wouldn't be so surprised.
You let it go.
Yeah, I let it go.
Amazing.
What is one thing people have gotten wrong about you?
That I'm a party girl. I don't know where that came from. I was like, how
it's
could
the
I?
Boots.
I guess. And it's like, it's funny that people think I'm a wild child, but I'm not. I couldn't be where I am today if I was.
Well, then,
like
Jeanie,
that.
you can't be walking around with a ring like that if you want to. I also have a Laker ring from 2010. So we share some.
That's
a common ground.
That's a special
one.
It's
a special ring.
Yeah.
I gave up the engagement ring, but I kept the Laker ring. I think, would you agree that's a good decision?
I think you should hold on to that for a long time.
Forever. Yes. Especially since spending more time with you.
Yeah.
What is your relationship to perfection?
I'm a flawed person. Like, perfection isn't what I think I'm going to accomplish. I do the best I can. And sometimes there's those perfect days, but sometimes there's not. I don't hold it to a standard, only as a goal.
Do you acknowledge when they feel pretty perfect?
Sometimes like, it's like, no one can deny when you win a championship that you're the last team standing. So yeah, that's absolutely perfect.
Oh, how fun. And since this podcast is called Pretty Tough, I wanted to ask you, what is something that makes you feel tough?
A championship ring.
That will do it. Proud.
Right?
And something that makes you feel pretty?
A
Could be the same answer.
Diamonds,
I kind of
sparkly.
agree. I mean, diamonds. Thank you for supporting me, for being here. It means the world.
What a pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.